some context behind this video, I made this for a school project. Yeah, enjoy the video.
Hey kids, today we'll be talking about one of my favorite subjects, firearms. Now I know what you're thinking, God, another video about firearms, can't wait for a 2-hour video essay by a sheltered nerd with too much time on their hands. But fear not my short attention span friends, for today you can put away the soapboxes, as this video will not delve into the politics of firearms. Instead, we're going to take a trip through memory lane and explore how firearms evolved from glorified tubes with gunpowder in them into the mass murder machines we know today. As a pre-warning, my legal team have presented me with this to say. The definition of a firearm is often disputed, and there is no clear description of what is and what isn't one. While the origin of firearms are also disputed, and what is one is still contested, I have started with the first hand cannon. Anyways, enough of the nerd talk, strap in and let's get started. Our story starts here in ancient China in the 12th century with a Heilongjiang hand cannon, which remains in a museum to this day. It is the oldest firearm that humans have found and is dated back to 1288. While certainly not the first of its kind, its design and functionality aren't drastically different to later hand cannons. While the method of loading the hand cannon were also very similar to that of later muzzle loading firearms, of which you put your projectile, be it a metal ball, a small pebble, piece of glass, a shoe you found on the floor, whatever you please. Fair to say that while these tiny 4kg pieces of metal, while popular, were not effective, not even a little, I'll break it down for you. Imagine you're a foot soldier in China. You're about to kill a Mongol invader who wants to end your bloodline. You pull this tube out of the side of your pocket and go through the lengthy 30-second process of loading this piece of scrap metal. By the time the Mongol is about to kill you with his sword, you go to light the touch hole to light the gunpowder and maybe kill the 250-pound monster coming towards you. The fuse lights and you quickly point the tube at his direction. The projectile fires while snapping your wrist in half due to the recoil, and the projectile totally misses and hits some totally random person talking about firearm due to the smooth bore of the cannon, and the Mongol kills you. Fair to say, the early hand cannon wasn't too effective. It does get better though, don't you worry. Our next stop on this trip is 16th century Europe with the invention of the wheel lock, dog lock, and most popular system, the flintlock, or what I like to call them, the locky loads, trademark pending. While all having their own unique quirks and systems, they did all fundamentally follow the same loading systems. By this time, these unwashed Euros realized the drawbacks of the hand cannon, and how you can randomly hit something you did not mean to hit. So they evolved it, made it longer, heavier, and gave it a little sight at the end to make sure you aimed with better. The loading system did not change all that much compared to the early hand cannon by this time. Instead of lighting the touch hole to make it fire, you instead could pull the trigger to let the cocktail go down. The flint strikes against the frizzen to light the pan to create a spark, which then fires the gun. While sounding complicated, it's a very simple contraption that revolutionized firearms as we know it. It did come with its drawbacks however, with misfires being common due to either poorly maintained flint, as if it was used too often, the flint would become dull. The rainy European weather could cause the powder to go damp and cause the weapon to not fire as a spark couldn't be created. Accidental discharge was also commonplace, as already burnt residue powder from the previous load could cause the next powder being loaded into to catch fire while the projectile was being put in, often injuring the soldier that was loading it. As shown here, you can see the early foundations of firearms showing up. The idea that a poorly trained soldier could just pick up one of these bad boys and get to killing was a godsend for armies. But they knew things needed to get better, and boy did things truly get better. We're nearing the end of our journey as we travel to the 19th century USA, where we saw the first mass adoption of the brass cartridge. Now it's important to remember that the Americans did not invent the brass cartridge. It was actually invented by a French and Swiss guy in the 19th century, and Napoleon did have the opportunity to use his cartridges in his war. However, he turned it down to continue with his muzzle-loading mischief. The first mass-adopted cartridge gun was the Colt Patterson revolver in 1836, which is a far cry from the revolvers we see today, where you need to put primers at the end of each bullet, yet was still popular among civilian use due to its fast fire rate. The first mass-produced non-muzzle-loading rifle was the Springfield Model 1865, perfect timing for the start of the Wild West in the 1860s. The most famous and popular revolver during the West was the Colt single-action revolver, a revolver that needs to be cocked every time fired. The popularity stemmed from the cheap cost, reliability, and accuracy of the revolver, with gunslingers often having one or two of them at all time. The main drawback being the slow reload time of the revolver, with each case needed to be ejected and loaded individually. But with a little bit of time, training, and shooting outlaws, plenty of gunslingers became masters in the act of both reloading their revolvers with speed and style. As seen with this era of firearms, firearms became more about precision instead of having many people with many rifles, as the army realized that having fewer skilled marksmen over the many bloodlusting young men was better and costed a lot less. This is when we moved into the next era of firearms. Here we visit our final stop on our journey, the modern day era of firearms. Now there is a plethora amount of firearms to talk about in our modern day time.
I have decided to go with my favorite personal invention because, hey, it's my show.
The bump stock was invented by veteran Bill Atkins in 2002 after he got inspired by seeing a World War II documentary in 1996 where the guns of the American fighter jet would reciprocate backwards every time it was fired. And he thought of replicating this onto a semi-automatic rifle, where after one trigger pull, it could shoot hundreds of rounds per minute, essentially converting it into a machine gun. He asked the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, if he could go ahead with this invention, which the ATF approved twice, and Atkins finished his invention in 2002 and named it the Atkins Accelerator, which if that's not the most kick-ass name compared to bump stock, I don't know what is. The invention works by the use of holding the trigger down once, and as the gun fires and recoils backwards, the stock causes the trigger to bump, hence the name, against the shooter's finger, causing the gun to fire again. While not converting the gun to a fully automatic, it does cause the gun to fire at a rate of 800 rounds a minute, which is very close to a fully automatic firearm. Then in 2005, the ATF realized this and were like, oh shit, we just approved a device that could turn any semi-automatic rifle into a fully automatic rifle, and promptly outlawed the device, which, took you long enough. With that, a lengthy complicated history of lawsuits, patent stealing, banning approval of certain bump stocks compared to others, all happened within this device's lifespan, and which meant that the device was still accessible to your average Joe. Then the worst mass shooting in American history happened in 2017 in Las Vegas, after which the FBI investigation found that the large majority of the rifles he used in the mass shooting had bump stocks on them, which was a large reason why he could kill so many people in such quick succession. After this tragedy, the ATF made sure that bump stocks are illegal for most US citizens to own. Sorry to end the video on such a negative tone, but like the majority of history, firearm history is also very complicated. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the quick lesson in history. I'm Rory, and thank you for watching.